So, Dan, I saw the guest list today.
Do you like it?
I like some of it. There's one portion that I know you love. Ian O'Connor. There is still someone out there roaming the earth trying to find the truth. How about that?
Ian O'Connor wrote a book about Aaron Rodgers. I'm guessing it'll be great, right? He did 250 interviews, so I'm assuming that it'll be somebody will give us some insight into what happened there.
How about he write a book about him playing 17 games this year? I mean, I'll read it. I won't read it because all he's doing is telling me that he's playing 17 games, but I would purchase that book. I would. Just to support Ian O'Connor.
No, just to support the idea of Aaron Rodgers playing 17 games. It really is all you care about. Like, we are, I feel like we are at the epicenter with you of where desperation meets what you'll do for quarterback play. The Jets.
I'll take anybody.
I mean the Jets' best quarterback ever. Like, if we were to do a list of the best Jets quarterbacks ever, you'd have Joe Namath, who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be number one on that list, but he probably is. I mean, Mark Sanchez.
Think about that for a second.
Sanchez.
I used to think that the greatest example of how hard it is to find a quarterback is that Chicago's greatest quarterback ever is Jay Cutler. But if the Jets come at you with Joe Namath, who threw a lot more interceptions than touchdowns.
Yeah.
If the Jets come at you with Mark Sanchez, I understand why you would be this desperate for a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, one of the oldest players in the league, to summon something. And I think he's going to, honestly. I think he's going to
17?
I think he's going – what he's going to do is not make any mistakes for you at quarterback, and that's all your team actually needs.
No mistakes, yes.
He's not going to make any – he's going to make the correct decisions every time.
Most of the time, yeah, and we'll take that. Aaron Rodgers with one healthy season. 17 games, probably will go down as the Jets' greatest quarterback of all time.
Chris, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. It's crazy.
Hilarious.
But he's not wrong. Like, who else are you putting in there? Like, if we had to make a top 5 list of greatest Jets quarterbacks ever, are we going to find a number 5? Is like Vinny Testaverde sneaking in there?
I mean, Chad Pennington's on the list.
Ray Lucas?
Oh, no, get out of here. I mean, he might be on it.
Chad Pennington is definitely on it.
We have the worst, best quarterback in franchise history of all time, don't we?
Well, it's either you or Chicago, right?
Chicago has Sid Luckman. It has Jim McMahon. There's some guy, Jay Cutler, some guys. I mean,
look, the list you just gave me is not a lot better than Joe Namath. Like, if I put Sid Luckman next to Joe Namath, let's do that show today, shall we? Too bad Cody's not here today.
Is Caleb already top 5 in Bears history?
Yes.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is Caleb Williams already a top 5 quarterback in Bears history?
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget about peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Legitimately surprised I'm saying something I don't think I would have said a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to miss the Olympics.
Huh.
I'm surprised by that. It caught me off guard. I'm legitimately blinded by the gold medal that Juju is wearing. It makes me feel like I'm looking into a portal, into a heavenly future. Juju is very happy because America, we were great at sports, and the closing ceremony was wonderful. Tom Cruise jumped off a building.
That's what he does.
It is what he does.
Is he still flying in the transatlantic thing or no?
I don't know how that works with tape stuff out in Los Angeles. What was taped of the Red Hot Chili Peppers or Billie Eilish? When you say that's what he does, jumps off buildings.
Yeah.
I happened to be watching the gold medal American men's game on Saturday with my father, and I'm just stupefied by Steph, obviously. And my father's just going, well, that's what he does. Well, yeah, nobody's ever been able to do that, Dad. Well, that's what he does.
Well, he's right.
I mean, yes, correct. He went 17 for 27. And I can make this argument, right, without rebuttal. Steph Curry, never anyone like him. LeBron James, never anyone like him. Kevin Durant, never anyone like him. Like, that's what we were watching. They just put the punctuation on all things, them fighting over who's the best for the last 10 years. And all three of them are unlike anybody we've ever seen. And that had to feel so cool for Steph because we had been marveling at LeBron. Triple doubles, you're the oldest player in basketball. Like, how are you still stronger than everyone else? Well, he wasn't on that play where Yabusele dunked on him, but which was...
He was taking a charge and
what
scrub
are you
that from
doing
your
there?
memory.
He
That
tried
didn't
to
happen.
slide in there.
That didn't happen.
Won the gold.
I mean, he did win the gold, but Stugotz, did you see, like, LeBron, have we ever seen LeBron postered like that? He got postered the way he postered Jason Terry. Like, whether he's trying to take a...
Two different things, completely different.
He jumped over Jason Terry. That's different.
Yeah.
Mike, you're shaking your head.
It wasn't that bad. Come on. The guy's not seeing a colorist anymore because it actually adds to his legacy if he's doing this with a gray beard. Let him live.
Let him live.
Put behind me, please, video. Put behind me the dunk of Yabusele on LeBron James. Also, at some point, just roll pictures that I couldn't have imagined 15 years ago about Jokic being, the best player in the world. Happier than any of us have ever seen him, winning a bronze medal instead of winning the championship for the Nuggets.
Crazy. Yeah, that guy loves third place. I mean.
That's as happy as we've ever seen Jokic. But 20 years ago, if you had told me under what circumstance, if you had shown me this picture of Jokic and said, this guy's going to be the best basketball player in the world, I'd be like, my ass. Like, what are you talking about? And before yesterday, I don't know if he finished, but he was number one in men's Olympic basketball in points, rebounds, assists, and some other stat before yesterday's game. I don't know if somebody ended up passing him, or Saturday's game, if someone ended up passing him, but he was the best basketball player in the world when the world was playing as well. Stugotz was objecting to a tweet that, how did you feel about this, Chris? Because I imagine you would like this, that Team USA basketball went after Noah Lyles because Noah Lyles had the opinion, the controversial opinion, that if you win in the NBA, you're not world champion.
Yes, and then Team USA, their Twitter account, after winning the gold, they tweeted at him, "Are we world champions now?" What are you doing?
Oh, it's fantastic.
What are we doing?
I feel like even Noah would look at that and be like, yeah, I deserve that.
No, you on the same team or not? I mean, he made a benign comment. They don't need to dumb down. They won the gold. They
benign comment?
It was a benign comment. He said the winners of the NBA championship are not world champions. Why do you call them world champions? And then they win the gold, as they should, because that team is loaded. And that's the first thing they're thinking about on social media, going at Noah Lyles, a USA teammate, by the way, going after a track star that we won't care about for another 4 years. We're going to go after him after we win. That's weak.
That cues up the most perfect time of the year, baby. Joker of the damn day.
Uh-oh.
Wow. We are back and we are cooking. Sorry, Mike, I don't mean to put my patriotism in your face like that.
It's all glory. We're good.
Is this a new feature, or what are we doing here?
I mean, we are celebrating life and liberty today, Stugotz. That's
right.
what we are doing.
Love it.
Noah Lyles, you, sir, are the Joker of the day.
What?
He out of his own Twitter account and his own mouth, his COVID-written mouth, by the way, which cost his team in the 4x4. Look, don't get me started. You're a joker for that because they had to switch up the entire race, the order of the race for him, and they came up short because of him. But you are the Joker of the day for returning Anthony Edwards' invitation to his party while saying He's not an NBA champion. He has shoes. You, sir, are a joker of the USA.
All right, U.S.
Wow.
Day, Joker of the U.S. Day. Juju, I
that.
want to get you started on this because I think Noah Lyles' story, I saw pictures this morning of him at the club, and so I'm like, okay, so he was healthy enough to win the 100. He didn't have COVID then. He gets a bronze and looks exhausted, and he does have COVID in the 200, and I would have made an argument like, should he even be racing under those conditions?
Right, you're around other world-class athletes who have trained for 4 years to get here. And before the race, you jumping around, Triple H spitting in the air. Nah, brother, you need to calm down with your COVID-having ass and sit over there, sir.
That seemed why he was exhausted at the end, though. If you come out into the arena and expend all of that energy when you have COVID, underestimating what that does to your lungs.
He was exhausted because they lost.
Well, okay, so continue with Joker of the Week. You guys are of the belief.
It's his Joker. I
You
mean.
guys think that Noah Lyles lost and then it became immediately about the COVID.
Instantly, like Paul
Went to a
Pierce.
wheelchair.
Exactly. The wheelchair was a problem. 13 seconds ago, you was just jumping around, pumping up the crowd, using energy, might I add, that you could have used in that last NOS area of Fast and the Furious. But dare I say, and then his when he went down, salute to his family. His mom took to Twitter saying that it was embarrassing. They wouldn't let me out there. Ma'am, you cannot go out there. You just sit in the seats, and we got him. Joker of the year, the whole family.
All right, Joker
Wow.
of the Year. Whoa, that was a quick escalation. Put it on the
It's an
poll
election year.
as well, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is COVID known to nuke the Nas button in Fast and the Furious? Because that is what happened to Noah Lyles. He had nothing at the end, and that's not where we should start, though. The start today, I think, correct me if the rest of the room thinks we should be going somewhere else, but to me,
It's too late for that. I mean,
no. Well, what do you guys think?
All right,
What do you
okay.
guys think was
All
the
right.
most important story of the weekend? See how it's not too late, Stugotz? See how
You brought it back.
see how it's not too late.
yeah, you're good.
Go ahead and tell me what you thought was the most important story of the weekend.
United States winning the gold in basketball. I thought it was a great story. It's a slow time in sports. It has to be that or Dan Caleb Williams.
Okay,
I mean,
so you did men's. You're doing men's winning the gold.
I'm doing men's and women's basketball, both winning the gold. How about
Okay.
that?
Tribute.
Yeah, USA basketball.
Right? U.S. women's soccer.
Yeah, what about them?
They won the gold.
Yeah, but that wasn't the biggest story of the weekend, was it?
I think you can do a catch-all here and just say Team USA. And we should certainly highlight the women who won the majority of the gold medals for Team USA over the course of the Olympics. Team USA women's national team had a bunch of adversity, made a kick-ass hire, and immediate dividends with the hiring of Emma Hayes.
There's a lot to talk about here, and I would say that I cannot tell you how grateful I am to the U.S. women's basketball team for slogging out a win against a French team that played exactly the style it wanted to and harassed Team USA into turnovers and missed layups, and they went I think, did Team USA make like 2 threes all game? It's the only way the French could have beaten what I believe to be the female equivalent of what the Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan team was, which is this team can't be beaten. We're all paying attention. What do you mean the French are coming within 1 and just, a Kevin Durant type toenail from like true disaster? They helped me avert what would have been a suffering for 4 years of people yelling at me about Caitlin Clark not being on that team. We are so fortunate that by 1 point, all of those people have to go running back the way, the way that when you turn on the lights in the kitchen, cockroaches go running away. We are so lucky that we don't get 4 years of people yelling at us because that team couldn't bring home gold. But my God, that's the way you beat that team. Just drag the whole thing into the mud. And I think France was 0 for 9 from 3. Like, all they needed to do in the fourth quarter, all they needed to do was make a shot and they would have beaten us.
Right, and there's top players. They're hoopers. Marine Johannes, Rupert. You feel me? They had a terrible shooting night. Ayayi had early foul trouble, which got us lucky in the first half because she was knocking them down as well. But also on our side, Jackie Young couldn't hit the ocean yesterday. She was wide open layups. So we traded misses with them, and luckily it worked out for us.
Can you tell me whether you guys agree with the assessment that that team is the equivalent of the Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, 1992 original American Dream Team in the women's game? Because it's not just an overloaded powerhouse. It's an overloaded powerhouse that we were all awed by as soon as it was put together.
I think we have to dig, maybe even not that deep, but I don't think it's the most dominant women's national team on the basketball side, because it's because of the previous teams that this gulf has actually shrank. Despite the talent level, you could argue, which is maybe the argument that you're making, Dan, that in terms of talent, and you'd be hard-pressed to push up against that, this is the best team. But in terms of dominance, I think you could go to previous Olympics and find more dominant teams.
I wasn't talking – no, forgive me. I was not talking about the production or the results of the team. I'm talking about what they represent as an American showcase sent over there as a world powerhouse. We're bigger and badder and tougher than anybody, and
yeah. Taurasi doesn't get any playing time. She just won her 6th gold medal.
Also, Brittany Griner. She only got 6 minutes yesterday, and no Jewel Lloyd. Still eked it out.
Chris Cody, you were off last week. I can see on your face that you had a lot of beer. You drank a lot of beer last week. Were you watching a lot of Olympics?
0 beer last week, actually.
Were you watching Olympics?
I love the Olympics. Every second of it, honestly. I want to give a standing ovation just to NBC. What a delightful experience.
But you're sitting. I mean, that's a sitting ovation.
It's an audio medium.
I'll stand for you.
Well, it is a sitting. Put it on the poll, Juju. Can you give a standing ovation while sitting? At Le Batard Show. You want to give a standing ovation? We did a lot of that last week to NBC and Peacock.
I love the cock.
What's the matter?
What else did you enjoy yesterday, Stugotz? The closing ceremonies. Tom Cruise jumps from a building. That's what he does. It was pretty cool the way that they passed everything over to Los Angeles. We didn't French it up so much with Cirque du Soleil that the right can get mad at some sort of religious misunderstanding during the closing ceremonies. They knocked that out.
I haven't checked X this morning. They're probably mad about something.
No, I think they scrubbed it. I think
they're always mad.
Wasn't there a phrase coined if you're like insulted and offended by everything that you see? Didn't they call you something?
Yeah, I know. That's what's funny to see that. Yeah, and everyone else is woke while you're sniffing around the closing ceremonies to see if some Cirque du Soleil person can offend some sort of religious belief you have from 2,000 years ago.
Only if I can confuse deities and you can't call me out on it.
What were the highlights of the closing ceremony for you? Because if this is a springboard, because Stugotz, I was taken aback by this, right? I was not expecting, in our 20 years, I don't believe we've ever covered an Olympics or been as excited about an Olympics, not even close as we were about these. I think part of it is the escape hatch of just what the last 4 years have been. I think part of it is the way streaming advancements have made it so that they're just injecting sports into your eyes at all hours. The time difference makes it so you wake up in the morning and you can invest from morning to evening of I can always turn my television on and just basically snort patriotism.
I think for me, the closing ceremonies, it was highlighted by a Parisian band called Phoenix, which is one of my favorite bands. Great live energy. They performed for the athletes there. I think they were missing in the opening ceremonies. I know Gojira killed it there, but I thought Phoenix and Daft Punk, who for different reasons weren't there in the opening ceremonies, and I thought that was a glaring omission, and I'm glad that they buttoned it up with Phoenix, which is one of France's great musical exports.
Was anyone else underwhelmed by the Tom Cruise thing? Like, that was, we got spoiler alerts about it. We kind of knew it was coming, and it was just, he jumped he just jumped
That is
from
the
top.
plague.
The buildup was too much.
This is the thing about this, right?
He's 62 years old.
This is the plague of expectations. My wife Valerie's got a great governor of she doesn't ever expect too much and sometimes expects the very worst. Therefore, she's never disappointed. What happens with you, Chris, is this was so publicized, Tom Cruise, that if they hadn't told you anything, if you didn't know anything, and you're just watching the closing ceremonies and you're like, wait a minute, is that Tom Cruise? What? Why is he jumping from a building? You would have been amazed by it.
Yes.
Like, you would have been,
Don't announce it.
That's
Yep.
a 62-year-old man jumping from a building. But it's the plague of expectations, man. It's just, it is a horror that Tom Cruise can't impress you, even though he gets that new fresh Botox and goes to the top of a building and jumps from it.
That's why it's so impressive what Steph Curry did the other night with the most impressive shot in U.S. history. Expectations were everywhere around those brothers. And guess what he did?
When you say most impressive shot, I have to ask you, which one? Because
So good.
Crazy. There was one where they threw like 4 defenders at him. For a brief moment, I got so insanely jealous of Warriors fans because I had a bar that was united for their love for the flag and Steph Curry, and oddly, at least in this bar, their hatred for Jason Tatum. But like everybody felt like a Warriors fan has felt like over the last 12 years or so. That is so uncommon. We've never seen anything like that. To know that, just go to the guy that can just shoot a 3 out of his butt over the tallest individuals on the planet. It don't matter.
And after he's made the 3 threes, now they're heat checking and they're double covering him, and he's just going to do it sort of floating to his right because he's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. We can have an argument about second place. There will not be, I don't think, any argument ever about what we're seeing. I suppose somebody will appear, some future Trae Young or Dame Lillard will somehow eclipse this. But in my mind, I cannot imagine someone shooting better than this because I don't know anyone who's ever, as a human being, been able to do what it is that he does. But when you talk about the end of that basketball game and needing every bit of what he was doing at the end of that basketball game. I've told you before, Stugotz, that you simply can't control when you're watching something how it is that you feel. You may think you're going to feel a certain way, and then things happen that shake how you feel. So I'm watching the game, that game, and I'm watching with my father, and I've bet heavy on the USA to win.
Right.
And the game gets...
You laid the minus 2,000?
No, I didn't do it on the money line. I got killed in the first half because that damn Yabasabi guy, he made one basket. I had minus 8.5.
Yabi, yeah.
And it took it from 10 to 8 at the basket over Anthony Davis. So I'm rooting for the United States for all the obvious reasons and my money. And then it gets close late, and I'm like, man, it'd be interesting if France won. Because I'm not going to win my bet anymore now. But the thing that it got me, that surprised me, was my patriotism, which I'm like, well, the French are a huge underdog. I tend to like those in sports. Those are some of my favorite things. The American team is kind of super loaded, unfair loaded.
But it's a French underdog.
That's right. And then that sweeps in after it. Yeah, I don't want the French to be happy about anything.
Right.
They're
not.
Well, I think they're pretty happy today with 2 silvers. Like I think they had the second best, well, literally the second best experience with basketball at the Olympics, but not just in winning both silvers. I think they all showed us something because they're like, I've thought of Spain as that kind of good. I've thought of Serbia as that kind of good. I do not think of the French as being this kind of competitive.
And they turned the corner, Dan, when they started getting away from forcing their NBA stars into that lineup. They showed their depth, and they showed guys that aren't in the association can really ball out too.
At the end of that game, though, Steph swung me back with simple, pure, and unprecedented greatness. Like whatever it is that was swirling inside of me, because I don't know if this happened to any of you. Maybe your USA allegiances are so strong that you don't say to yourself, man, the French are fighting. They kind of deserve to make this interesting at the end. I'm interested in a close game. I don't know how I'm going to feel at the end of this if the USA loses. I don't want them to lose, but I like underdogs, and that's a pretty cool story if Wemby can take out the entire team.
But it also felt like that, too, against the Serbian team where they were down 14, 17 points, and you were coming to the grips of, damn, they might lose to Jokic and a bunch of guys that are kind of like C-level NBA players or not NBA players at all. So it's almost like we had that experience prior to. So when we got to France, it was like, all right, we've seen this team down double digits. Like, that's kind of the worst it can be.
Without a really intense qualification process like there is in the World Cup for soccer, the U.S. is always in these major tournaments because they qualify. Lower tier talents end up qualifying because of just their sheer dominance.
And they're always expected to win.
You need now for these moments, like in '92, it was such a novelty. Dominance was the thing, and dominance is what you tuned in to see. Now you need moments, and we don't get that Steph moment without them being tested. We don't get those LeBron moments against Serbia without them being tested. You kind of need them to be tested for this whole thing to work and for you to have iconic moments, because that image shooting over Wembanyama in an illustrious career, that might be the greatest photo he's ever taken. Hell, that might be the greatest photo ever taken in athletics.
The rest of the world has caught up, which makes the Olympic Games more interesting. So Mike is right, because you used to watch. I never cared about Team USA except for the original Dream Team. But they were expected to win, and not only win, but win big. And anything short of a gold was, they underperformed in terms of expectations. But because the rest of the world has caught up, because France has caught up, because Serbia is now really good and might have the best player in the world, I found myself entering that game yesterday, not really caring. But halfway through, I'm like, wow. This is close. France is good. And Steph put on a performance for the ages, and I found myself caring about this thing more than I ever have because the rest of the world has caught up to the United States.
Congratulations, U.S. Olympic basketball team.
I cared.
You've done nothing more impressive than make Stugotz care about something in his 50s.
That's something.
That
in
is
August.
Unbelievable.
Right.
That is a testament. If we could etch that on the gold medal somehow, you summoned and stirred a single ember of care from Stugotz in his 50s. He doesn't care to shave. He doesn't care to clean. He doesn't care to get himself in form. But you stirred something, Steph Curry.
They must have spiked the greens at your golf course.
Something's going on.
I'm not allowed to care about anything. I cared.
We've just gotten used to you not caring about anything, and seeing Steph summon caring from you is like seeing one of the wonders of the world. It should be an eighth wonder of the world that Steph has summoned, that kind of greatness. Look, imagine the critic all shriveled up, boiled, just looking for places to put blame, enthusiastic about, ooh, I could rip Team USA if they lose. They exist just to be a thing I can rip. And then Steph hits 4 shots, and they needed all of them because the game was close late, and everyone else got out of the way so that he could do it. That's to see them.
All-time greats getting out of the way. Yes.
For all of them to know on the court what it is they were on the court with. Yes, Steph will be taking the next shot. It will not be LeBron. It was pretty good. It will not be Durant. It will not be Booker. It's going to be Steph from wherever it is that he is.
That is it for LeBron, Steph, and Durant in terms of Olympic competition, right? I think. Durant's done. Curry's done. He's going back to Lake Tahoe.
Yes,
LeBron still might be around.
It's pretty good punctuation. Video, get an assortment of pictures to roll behind me during the next segment. I think Mike is a prisoner of the moment on best photo ever taken. We've got to see if we could top it next. When I think of greatest photographs ever taken, and I know we're doing some video here and some audio, I'm going to describe what I recall as what I just generally associate as the greatest sports photograph ever taken, which is in Miami Beach, Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston after knocking him out. That is the instantaneous. If you tell me great photographs, what are the greatest you've seen? That's the first one that comes to mind for me.
For me, it's Jordan soaring through the air, dunk contest, seeing all the fans' faces in the background because they've never seen anyone jump so high and for so long.
Jordan has another one that I remember seeing as 2 pages in ESPN, the magazine, which was larger, which was magnificent because it was him making the shot over Byron Russell. And the Utah crowd, you could see in the Utah crowd, because it was Michael Jordan shooting the basketball, the horror of everybody. The ball's still in the air, the horror of everybody. And then there's a kid as a Bulls fan who's just got his arms up because he knows it's Michael. Everybody knows,
it's going
Everybody knows who's shooting that basketball, what the moment is. And it's just amazing to see the rampant fear of Utah fans and the celebration of Bulls fans before the shot has gone in.
Don't forget the shocked fan after the Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania was broken by Brock Lesnar.
That's a good one.
D-Wade LeBron alley-oop where D-Wade's kind of like soaring through the air.
Love that, yeah.
A woman who was accused of murder giving Joakim Noah the middle finger as he walked off the court, ejected and dejected in a Heat playoff basketball
RG3
game.
eating the baguette from the weekend. Classic.
Croissant, I think.
So
What a great sentence.
Dan yelling at security while the battery is just like waving his fingers.
So get as many pictures as you can to roll behind me.
That's better than Bobby Orr.
Of what is viewed. Bobby Orr's a pretty good one. Bobby Orr is a great sports photograph. But give me, if you can, Stugotz, because you were talking about Caleb Williams, and football was kind of back this weekend in the Olympics.
Yeah.
They gave us quite the appetizer as we gallop into football, because one of the benefits of the Olympics is that it's baseball, some WNBA, but there's not a lot going on right now. And so the Olympics just sort of pumping your July full of sports was something that for the people who are addicted to stimulus in our audience, a need for endless sports stimulus, it took the perfect time, perfect hours as it came and pushed us into football. But you were saying what about Caleb Williams, because you've been talking about him since you came in today?
The sniff test, Dan. I saw him in a uniform. I saw him on an NFL field playing in an NFL game. It was preseason, granted, but Caleb Williams, my goodness, he looks amazing. And so did Jaden Daniels, by the way. What a weekend. Bo Nix.
Yes,
There was a couple QBs, if you were paying attention, that made you go,
Do you have a top 5
and
list?
of course,
He's right.
preseason top 5 of QBs that made you go,
Okay, really? So there are 5 of them? OLIs or just we're going to
OLIs
5?
too, Dano.
Wow.
Wow. So there's 7 QBs who made you go, this week.
Exactly right. We'll start with the first OLI, Stetson Bennett the 4th. Again, you look at the box score, you
say,
see the 4 picks. But then, hold on. But then you see that game-winning drive, and you're like, huh?
No, see, Tony, look.
This kid's got spunk.
Yeah, spunk.
Kid's got spunk.
He's right.
Kid's got spunk. It's
Yeah.
not how you start, Dano. It's how you finish. That's why he's OLI.
Yep.
Tony,
tell 'em.
the problem that I have with you generally is that no one around here, you are my friend, okay? You're my friend from college who would always fall in love the moment he walked into the strip club. A quarterback shows you anything. And you are a Taylor Heineke fan for life.
He had 4
The Green
picks.
Lizard.
Stetson Bennett. 4.
Again, game-winning drive, though.
Right. How you finish?
Thank you.
I do wonder, Stugotz, when we were having this conversation on Pablo Torre Finds Out with Mina, but because in football, to me, one of the hugely interesting things is now it's almost as important to have value as quarterback as it is to have a great quarterback. So if I can get Brock Purdy for $900,000 and what I can surround him with is Kittle and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and McCaffrey and Trent Williams, okay, maybe Brock Purdy is the last pick in the draft, can be someone great. And I don't need to get Josh Allen, or I don't need to get Lamar Jackson. I can get huge value from a Taylor Heineke. Can I put Stetson Bennett the fourth in my backfield with Kittle, with Ayuk, with Deebo Samuel, with McCaffrey, with Trent Williams, and get someone who's serviceable.
Tony's not saying you can. He's also not saying you can't. He's just saying,
Let me ask you guys, the group, the question. Which would you rather have? A good quarterback, above average quarterback, slightly above average quarterback at $900,000 a year, or a Josh Allen type at $50+ million a year?
I want a quarterback that makes me go,
All right. What other OLIs you got?
We have the last OLI here before we get into the top 5 is everybody in the Saints and Cardinals game.
oh, wow.
We're talking about Jake Hayner. Talk about Spencer Rattler. Keep an eye on Spencer.
Yeah.
Clayton Tooney. Sir.
Yep.
And Desmond Ridder, who is a Cardinal now. All 4 guys go,
Yeah.
All of them?
all 4.
Not all of them can get all right. All
Clayton
of them.
Tooney, most
so
of them,
all
like
the
Ritter.
So all the quarterbacks who played this weekend made you go.
No.
That
All the
one
guys
game,
in the
yeah.
Saints Cardinals games,
Right.
I was keeping an eye on. I was saying, good throws from each one of those guys.
Number 5.
Number 5, Jaden Daniels.
That low? Chris Cody's slow off
yes.
of vacation.
Yeah, slow
Chris
on the,
Cody is on vacation.
Here's why he's this low,
Drinking.
right? Very, very small sample size, right? 2 of 3, had a great long pass, had a nice little play action, little RPO zip that he had. Not enough of a sample size to put him further down on the list, but I like what I see, and I saw something, that deep ball, perfectly placed between the safety and the corner. I said,
Jaden Daniels, who I like to call Jalen, he had the one throw. That he got into your list because of the one throw.
all it takes is one throw.
That's it.
Number 4.
Number 4, Bo Nix.
Big game.
Spunky.
Yeah.
Winner.
Oh,
Put it on the poll, Juju. Is Bo Nix spunky? Number 3.
I just said he had a big game. It was a preseason game.
Every game is a big game.
Football is back.
Number 3.
Joe Milton.
Oh, God.
Did you see him over the weekend, Dan?
The third.
The third.
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking about laser arm. Putting the ball in windows that they don't belong to be in.
Right.
And he's there, making it happen.
Well, and they're 2 better than this? 2 better than him.
better, yeah.
Number 2.
Caleb Williams.
Somebody's better than Caleb.
Did you see, Dan, when he had the play action fake, rolled out to his right, faked out a D lineman, and then threw kind of like a sidearm pass to the boundary that was like 42 yards away on an absolute dart? Insane.
Someone was better than him this weekend.
Somebody made me go, more than that this week.
Okay.
Right.
I don't
Not
know
better,
why.
remember, not better. This is
Mixing
not a
up
who's
the
better
games,
thing.
right,
Okay,
exactly.
well, I don't.
Things that
I
made me
don't-
go,
I don't understand the difference.
Number
on what
1.
you guys
Who's
are
better?
The number 1 quarterback that made me go, J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, wow. It's a good one.
I was very impressed with J.J. McCarthy. Again, they're like, oh, Sam Darnold's a starter. He's going to be our starter. Okay, sure. Okay, Kevin O'Connell's going to put his entire career in Sam Darnold's hands. Sure, 100%. And then I saw J.J. McCarthy in the preseason game throw a couple second-level throws, and I was like, something there.
Chris Cody's been wanting to talk about J.J. McCarthy, I'm going to say, for 6 straight weeks. And he hasn't had the windows in order to do anything J.J. McCarthy related.
Well,
so
now
here
he
it
does,
is, Chris
yes.
Cody.
D-Wade to LeBron
The floor
here.
is yours.
A lot of pressure.
Just
I
to
mean-
be clear, to recap, Jim Harbaugh keeps losing to Ohio State. Stugotz wants to fire him every year. Jim Harbaugh runs away scared during the pandemic of Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh oversees widespread cheating throughout his program that makes him flee the premises and is no longer welcome back for 4 years for different violations than the Connor Stallions violations. And also, furthermore, spent the whole season hiding a first-round pick from us at quarterback. Just hiding J.J. McCarthy.
Winning with it.
Winning with it, but hiding him, trying to actively hide his quarterback in a way that stunned me when he went in the top 10 and made me think, well, it's only because what they value the most now is quarterbacks who are valuable, right? He can't be a top 10 quarterback, and you're now going to tell me he's a top 10 quarterback?
J.J. McCarthy has been interesting to me since the draft. So you get these cool, I don't know if this was on Hard Knocks or you get the coaches interviewing players. And so first I want to play a clip here of J.J. McCarthy talking to the Minnesota Vikings before they drafted him. Play that now.
The whole night beforehand, I'm just thinking like, all right, I got to do something that's going to, stick in their brains, something that's going to, really have them walk out of that meeting and be like, he could be our guy.
Okay, so you have J.J. McCarthy here before the draft thinking, what can I say to these guys that make them. So obviously we know now he was drafted by them. So you're thinking, what did he say? He must have said something to these guys.
Amazing.
And they left that meeting. That's our guy. So let's find out now what he said.
At the end, I tell Coach O'Connell that, I'd run through a brick wall for him. And, that's something that I've only said that to 2 coaches in my entire life, people that I have, the utmost respect for and honor for. And, he definitely fits that mold and won championships with both of those guys previously. So hopefully we can have.
I mean, can you believe that?
He's only told 2 coaches that.
He'd run through a brick wall for them.
The only 2 coaches he's ever had.
I just love the idea of them being they're not sold on him yet. And then he's like, "Do you guys hear what he said about the brick wall?"
He's only told 2 other coaches that. His little league coach and his high school coach. No, he wouldn't do it for Harbaugh. He knew Harbaugh was cheating, and he's like, no brick wall, no. I'll run through some drywall for Harbaugh.
That made them say,
J.J. McCarthy, you're telling me, was more impressive than Caleb Williams this weekend?
Again, bigger sample size. He played more. He threw a couple touchdowns, threw a pick, but I like to see that. You know why I like to see the interception?
You like to see the pick?
I do, because you know why? That means you're trying to make a play.
Yes.
And I like that. It's the preseason. We're not going to count the picks against
Get him out of the way early, Tony.
Exactly. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his first year. You know what I like to see? Going for it. Had a bigger sample size. Again, Caleb Williams only played a little bit. J.J. McCarthy played more. Made me go,
Tony, it's your but I would imagine expectations have a lot to do with the amount of you apply, because this is a number 1 overall pick. You expect Caleb Williams to be good. So while he makes you go, it's not an extended With J.J. McCarthy, you apply the context of, wait, was Michigan hiding this guy? Is he actually good?
You got to define for me, because I'm confused
Just
about
did.
what the means.
You just did.
How many M's?
Because I thought means he's going to be good.
No,
It
it's
makes you
just
go,
Yeah.
It makes you go,
it's like a delight, like a
How many M's?
Something's afoot.
Yeah, like keep an eye on him.
Something's afoot.
I like
in a good way.
I like 3 M's to trail the, H.
That's fine. You can spell it. That's good, but I still don't know what it means really, because something's afoot is not
In a
much
good way, though.
But
Because bad, something's afoot always has a bad connotation to it. We're here on like something's afoot in a good way.
It means there might be something there. There also might not be something there.
so that you can say about every quarterback. Though.
Which is what
I was on a boat as the Broncos game was going on. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Bo Nix. I went,
Yeah.
what? Okay.
Well,
a
the
quick
huh,
pass for a touchdown. I was like,
Just the corner of his eye.
the huh is different, though.
No. But then I followed it up. Like, all right, let me see what this is. Oh,
Right.
Okay, but I don't know is that the same as his?
yes.
no, his
confirmed.
is like he has his own list. I'm just trying to help the audience as we shape it.
The huh is reserved for a guy that you probably didn't think that was going to be very good headed into the draft. He has a good opening game. You go, huh?
I don't think that's who the huh is for.
It's my huh.
I know, but I feel like the huh is it can be your huh.
Yeah.
It's fair enough.
Well, it is my huh.
But in this case, I'm telling you that my huh, and I believe mine to be a more mainstream huh.
Right.
I think huh is when you discover that a quarterback is playing somewhere that you didn't know was playing there. I think that's what the huh is for. When all of a sudden a name you recognize appears on a team that you did not know he was on.
Like Desmond Ridder with the Cardinals. You're like, huh.
Like
Desmond
Marcus
Ridder.
Mariota with the Commanders. Huh? Yeah.
My Huns
So you
were
changed your
usually
mind?
reserved for Nathan
Fair
Peterman guys. Like,
Okay, so yours has a question mark on it, though.
Well, it's just like a lot like the you can add a different inflection and change the whole meaning.
Yeah.
Well, I still don't know the meaning of the I really don't.
I mean, we did 15 minutes on it.
We didn't do 15 minutes. It
thing.
just felt like 15 minutes. It felt like it, but it was not 15 minutes.
I mean, if you can't keep up with the
Let's move on, Stugotz, to Jonathan Taylor and his Guardian cap. Actually, before we do that, forgive me. Video, go back to Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston over the weekend made a pregame speech that I just wanted to play for the audience, because every word that falls out of the mouth of Jameis Winston, I'd forgotten that he was with the Browns. I shouldn't have, but he made me do a huh. That's why that's who I was thinking of first with the huh.
Then he recalled, how did in their offseason did they add allegations?
That's right. And the way they did it is by bringing this man into their pregame huddle where he did this.
The message is simple. Be obsessed with your opportunity. Yeah. All of us that came from wherever we from. Right here, we got right now. So being said, what y'all be doing? I got one thing for y'all, man. I want y'all to help me out because I know we're a team, all right? I had this in my dream, all right? All right, when I say where my dogs at, y'all say we ready, all right? Where my dogs at? When I say where my dogs at, y'all say we ready, all right? Where my dogs at? Now I'm about to spell the Browns out. I know we one team, man, okay? I'm going to spell the Browns out. We're going to be R-O-W-N. Come on, Dave. You're going to say that's genius. All right, we're going to be R-O-W-N.
They're all bought into it. The
I got
Browns-
goosebumps.
I'm
on
I'll run through a brick wall for
that
that guy right now.
Do you guys think that the team asked Jameis to do that, or he just does it on his own?
It's from the heart.
Right,
That's a heart thing. That's that guy who's a dog who walks in is like, nobody's giving a speech better than I'm giving a speech right now. Let's go.
That is also Noah Lyles in terms of he gets out on the field and has no wind left as soon as he starts the game because of everything he expended in the original huddle. The old Ravens will tell you that about 7 years in, they got tired of that with Ray Lewis. It stopped being the goosebump thing, and it's like, yeah, we've heard all of this. We've heard the dogs are the same place we put them the last 7 years.
Was that after the winning? I mean,
Yeah. It was after the winning, and
Right.
still, it was like, okay, enough. I know where the dogs are at. We've discussed this every game for 7 seasons.
Tyler Huntley, also a Brown quarterback.
Snoop.
A Browns quarterback. Huh?
This is what happens with age. I'm happy to welcome you over to my side, putting S's in the wrong place and taking them out in the wrong place. Mike, you're in no position to laugh after making us afraid of shark people last week. Yes, he's a Browns quarterback.
Yes, I was surprised. I mean, I just figured he'd always be the Ravens' backup. I mean,
You do understand why people would get tired of that, but I was sucked right in to everything Jameis Winston was selling because energy and happiness and enthusiasm is contagious. You can borrow it from people when they're that kind of positive, or we're always asking athletes to love what they do, right? That's a preseason game. That's a preseason game.
I think when it's the preseason or your team is winning, you can digest that. Jameis is always like that, even
That's
when
true.
the team is 1-10. You
That's
know?
true.
And you're like, hey, enough, dude. It's kind of like Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
You know?
I really can't get up for preseason games. I like to watch the rookie quarterbacks perform and see if I can be an expert in the 5 plays I watch them in. But this preseason for me is just about one thing, and it's the Guardian caps. Because the NFL over the offseason, those weird Guardian caps that we see in practices and scrimmages that go over the helmet, they decided that, hey, we're going to have those available for game action. Now, this looks strange. How is this going to work? Is it going to look like the helmet? Well, they decided we're going to put a little skull cap over the Guardian cap and make it look like the logo. So it looks a little bit more like the helmet. But as you can see here, Jonathan Taylor was the first star player to wear the Guardian cap, and he's been non-committal about wearing this during the regular season. He said that he just wanted to try it out. I can understand why he's not committed to this, because here's the thing about the Guardian caps. While it may make your brain safer, and ultimately that's what everybody wants, people also want to look cool. And you don't look cool wearing this thing. And that's what is standing in the way for a lot of people. It just there are times where he's receiving a handoff in particular, and you see a quarterback that's not wearing the Guardian cap, and you see him like, this is really strange looking. It'll take guys, I'm happy that he did it, because it'll take stars like Jonathan Taylor to normalize this, and maybe it'll become more par for the course across certain positions. Like running back, you can certainly understand why they would have I don't know why any offensive lineman doesn't just do what that Pittsburgh Steeler did. Just put that on my head. I'm constantly getting collided in. I'm not a wide receiver. I don't have to look good, play good. But for 1 week in, it's still kind of odd to me, dude.
For those of you who have not seen it, without the draping, it looks like a Lego helmet. And I miss Andrew Luck because he would lead the way here. He would not be interested in looking cool. He would be smart enough to say, I'm going to protect my head. But Mike
left.
Mike is not. That's right. In fact, yes, he left saying, I'm going to go protect my head. But to describe it to the audio audience, what I would say to you is it looks like if you put the Colts logo over a Lego helmet, and it were to look like the first and only time I ever tried to wallpaper something, which is that there are a lot of places that are not
air bubbles.
smoothed out, and then I couldn't get it right, and then I quit carpentry and all construction work. I lasted 1 week doing it, and then I promptly quit, just enough time to pay for my Dickies work boots.
And 3 words that will make this very cool. This helmet, the Lego helmet, OBJ. Put my boy OBJ in the orange one for the Dolphins this year, and I bet you everybody start wearing them with the moonwalk.
But Mike is right about players wanting to look cool. They want to be safe, but they want to look cool when they're playing their sport. And so it's going to take superstars, megastars, to wear this helmet for it to become common in the NFL.
Stugotz, we had this conversation with Shaquille O'Neal. We're like, Shaq, you're shooting 50% from the line. Rick Barry says you can do 70 to 80% underhanded. Nope.
I don't blame him.
Nope, never going to do it. Not shooting underhanded? No. The answer is no. I'll lose a championship? Okay. That's fine.
But I ain't winning it that way.
No, I prefer to lose a championship than win one shooting free throws granny style. But the wallpapered helmets that Mike is talking about, it looks wrong. If you see helmets out there, and I know Chris Cody is worried in general about the red zone experience, but if I tune in for my first red zone experience and those helmets are all over my screen, I'm going to start fiddling with my settings, trying to figure out why it is that some of these guys are blurry.
Were you about to say mess with the bunny ears?
Yes.
Come on, come over here.
The bunny ears. Come on, man. The bunny ears was like, I
How
love
does
Lucy.
he know about bunny ears? Never seen
Guys,
Terminator 2.
back in my day, I had one TV set with a little bunny ear. I was like 6 years old, and I remember having to move it around. And then it had like a...
Will-eyed. Yeah, she had bunny ears and aluminum foil on top of the bunny ears to make it stronger.
Wow.
Put it on the poll, please. Did your grandmother's television have bunny ears on it? Your objections or your fear about the red zone is what, Chris?
My fear is not about once the games get going. It's at 1 o'clock. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire week. It's Scott Hansen. We are ready for 7 straight hours, and we see the Octobox of commercial-free football, and you see the Octobox, and it just, I'm so used to how cool the kickoffs looked. And now I saw this preseason. I'm okay with it in terms of safety and all that, but it doesn't look as cool. When I'm looking at a field before the kickoff and the players are 10 yards from each other, it's just going to take getting used to. And right now I was looking at it, and I'm just imagining seeing 8 of those at once, and I'm just like, oh, this is not as aesthetically pleasing as it used to be. So I'm worried about just the start, my energy level at the start of my 7 straight hours.
What you guys are saying is so funny from a couple of perspectives, okay? First of all, the true absurdity in Mike Ryan arguing correctly that football players, even at the risk of brain health, would want to look sleek. These kickoff rules are because the kickoffs are stupid and dangerous. Like all of the new kickoff rules is just because can't have guys trying to stay on the fringes of the league, torpedoing down the field at 800 miles an hour.
A gunner.
Because their paychecks count on it, and they're going to be in the league for 4 years as the 49th guy because they're good at just going down the field as fast as they can and colliding into another human being. Instead of just eradicating it, because that's too much for us, let's keep slowly changing the rules. Slowly changing the rules until a confused Chris Cody gets used to them on Sunday.
This also brings, like, the position more attention. Like, there's more receivers, more opportunities now in the league for your Devin Hesters and whatnots. So I think that this is great for the NFL, in my opinion.
Well, it's great because it keeps everyone safer, and anything that keeps everyone safer is a good thing.
I'm just saying the optics of it. Like, I was okay with touchbacks. Give it to me the way it used to look. I'm okay with 50 touchbacks.
Right.
I don't need. I didn't miss the returns that much.
Right.
I was fine with it.
But what if someone breaks one off for a touchdown? I mean,
It's just, but the optics though, of these guys like 6 yards away from each other. It's just,
if they're going to be 6 yards away from each other, onside kick it, and don't announce that you're doing it either.
Zagak.
Stugotz, I have found myself like super profoundly grateful as we head into our 20-year anniversary, just thinking about how absurd it is that all of this that we do is allowed to exist, never more so in terms of gratitude than during a time when like the media is shaking and there aren't many jobs available. And one of the things that I'm proudest of that we have here is that A, not very many people leave when they get here, but also that the people who do, the Pablos, the Minas, the Bomanis, the Dominiques, you see how and where they go, the Whittinghams. When they leave, they're leaving for these things that no one even thinks they're leaving. And I rarely feel that kind of pride in general in my life about things we've done. But another place that I felt it recently is when I saw that from within the inside of what it is that we're doing, Mike Ryan joined Canes Insight as not just a correspondent, but as an owner, and watching the last couple of years of him sort of navigating the new college football space as booster and executive and businessman and also journalist, but not having to identify as journalist, but having his information be better than most. We've had a tricky time around here. We're often talking too much football, and he wanted a space where he can talk about it more, and that place isn't here because people get so annoyed about how much we're talking about football around here. But they're headed toward what Mike is calling, and he cares about this program, Stugotz, in a way that I used to see when I was on campus, and I'd see people gathered on the corner of Ponce de Leon at what was then Mark Light Stadium. And I was like, man, this is out of the 1950s, this sense of community they have here where people gather for a milkshake. There's nothing in Miami quite like this. And he's decided to raise his daughter inside of that sphere and really be a part of what is doing.
That stuff was happening as you were growing up when the Canes were dominant, when they were winning. They haven't been that in a long time, and Mike is still entrenched trying to make it happen.
Stugotz, it was before was winning.
Yeah.
It's when baseball was winning and signaling on the beginning of cable television. What's that weird thing in South Florida where they play sports? They don't have many sports in South Florida, and it was a baseball program on the corner of Ponce de Leon that first was introduced to the country before, 1983, maybe hurricane football of Howard Schnellenberger. But Mike, you're maintaining, as someone who not just cares about this program but knows its history, you're maintaining from a business perspective that Miami is headed into the biggest game it has played since when, with the first game against Florida?
I think, and I've spoken to people, administrators around the program, people that have known this program for a long time, I think if you apply the appropriate context, the investment that the school has made in athletics is something that fans and alumni were complaining about for decades on end. When you consider that, when you consider the individual and collective investments from the collective, I think that you can make a solid argument. I'm not here to tell you what's the most important, but I think you can make a solid argument when you consider the inflection point of college athletics and all those other things that I detailed, including national title games. I think you can make the argument that the game against Florida is the most important game in program history.
From an investment standpoint, it's really that's really what you're doing.
Yeah,
here.
You're entering year 3 of Mario Cristobal from an evaluation, from an investment standpoint, from where college athletics is going, from the on the horizon. Who knows if collectives are going to go away or not, depending on what Congress decides to do. This is Miami's opportunity to get back to where they once were, and I think you can make a really sound argument that this is the most important game for them ever when it comes to football.
No pressure, Cam Ward. Welcome to Miami.
Well, but he looks good, Stugotz.
I know he looks good.
Well, but okay.
Hopefully he's not listening right now.
He needs to be good. I don't think Cam Ward will shy away from that stuff. If you've listened to Cam Ward speak at ACC Media Day, like Cam Ward has a ton of confidence. You're getting a a much different personality type there and a much different talent level than you've had at that position before. But they scrimmaged over the weekend, and as any fall camp opens up, the defense is going to be well ahead of the offense. That doesn't matter. That's not a shot on the offense. If they're close, there's an issue. This defense, that defensive line, I will say, this is the most talented defensive line in my adult life around the University of Miami.
No, wait a minute.
Since I was of legal drinking age.
Mike, hold on.
Look, I'm 38 years old, so let's date this back to when I was 21. In that time, I think Calais Campbell was part of one of these D-lines. I think this is the deepest, most talented defensive line of my adult life at the University of Miami. I'm not going back to before my adult life. All right, so it might be a little rhetorical trick. Maybe you think I'm older than I am.
No, it's not a rhetorical trick. We're getting older. I just remember. No, I remember Mike coming on here and telling me that at the beginning of one of these seasons that they had a ton of first-round picks a ton of pros along their defensive line. And
yeah, last year I said that there were scouts that were talking to me it doesn't just go my network goes a little bit beyond homerism, though you can apply that context here, and maybe a lot of people listening right now are grateful that I have an outlet to just add my takes there. But I think that Miami's, when you talk about the talent that they have, the body types that they have, it is different. And I'm not going to gas you up and get your expectations to a point. My expectations privately are they need to be in the college football playoff. And I think that it's all there for them this season. It really is. And they have the talent to do it.
Stugotz, I told you, okay, this is my introduction to big-time college football, okay, is I am beginning school at the University of Miami in 1986. I'm coming from Chaminade High School, which at that point wasn't any good at football. I have no access to what big-time football looks like. I'm a freshman at the University of Miami, and I walk into the locker room, and I'm standing in front of Jerome Brown. I look like a freshman. He does not look like any human being I've ever seen because he's physically bigger. And what I noticed when the University of Miami went from that to probation to the Ryan Clement years is I'd walk into the locker room and the kids got pimples on their face. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was introduced to something that I thought was this is all of college football. It is not. It is Jerome Brown at the top of college football. Then I see what mediocre college football looks like. Then I watch here over the last few years of what's been built. Oh, De'Aaron King can play for most teams, but the people around him aren't good enough and aren't big enough and aren't fast enough. De'Aaron King is someone who excites me at quarterback, but the rest of what's around him is not. The University of Miami is a top 20 team because they gave Mario Cristobal that money to be the guy who gets those guys. Don't know if he can coach them well. Don't know if he's going to screw up games in the fourth quarter.
That's an important part of it, though.
Actually do know he's going to screw up games in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Do know that.
But he might have so much talent that they can overcome it.
But you might see a University of Miami football team that looks a little more to you like the Michigan team looked last year.
Yeah, there was a lot of excitement, and I've been excited about previous teams before, and I've gone to practices before, and I've talked myself into things. Juju, you remember that Alabama football game that we went to in Atlanta? Yeah. We were all super excited. We get to the stadium grounds. We have field level access. We see our Canes come out. All right, cool. All right, let's do this. Let's hang tight. And then Alabama comes out, and they line up across the field from our guys, and you realize, damn, we don't look like we have a shot. I'll give you a case example of what it is. I've been to practices going several years there, and one of the body types that I would say, who is that? Is this guy Chase Smith, who's still around the program? Chase Smith would walk around, and I'd wonder aloud, this guy's the biggest guy on the team. Why is this guy not first guy off the bus? This guy looks incredible. Why isn't he playing? Second biggest guy was Lou Hedley, the punter. Now, Chase Smith is still around at practice, fighting for playing time. His body does not stick out at all. At all. The body types have totally changed. Yeah, Mario Cristobal is exactly who he was reputed to be from a talent acquisition standpoint, from a body type standpoint, from the type of football he wants to play. I think that they are ranked 19 because everybody has a healthy respect for the talents. These aren't like talents that you have question marks about. We've seen Cam Ward do what he did in Washington State. We've seen these D linemen, both here and in their other programs, deliver. I think they're 19 because people have their reservations about Mario Cristobal, which I think last year proved to be fair. So he's got to do the damn thing.
You can make the argument. I love De'Aaron King as a quarterback, but you can make the argument, given that Ken Dorsey wasn't a professional talent. He was a low-round pick who was Heisman worthy because everything in their huddle was so overwhelming, that Cam Ward is the most special talent they've had at the position this century. This in the 2000s, because again, Ken Dorsey, if you go back and look at old film of Ken Dorsey, and you will see Andre Johnson running wide open and be like, that's not a great throw. That's
Dude,
like
But those Canes teams would do that with Craig Erickson, with Walsh.
Well, that's even older. You're going back even further.
Yeah, but occasionally I'll walk into Sandbar and they'll have like old Canes games on the TV, and I'm super excited to watch Ken Dorsey. I'm like, wow. That did not feel like this.
A lot of globitos being thrown.
Yes, and poorly, and he missed a lot of people. Yes, but Mike, you
Gamer,
wouldn't dispute that, right? As the new co-owner of Canes Insight and a correspondent for Canes Insight, and now more and more of a University of Miami voice, you wouldn't dispute what I'm saying as a physical talent.
As physical talents, and it's like Tyler Van Dyke looked the part, and he had a big arm. The problem is he couldn't read a zone. And if you talk to Cam Ward privately, he's like, zone's easy. I just find the pockets. What's a big deal about zone? Like, it took the NCAA like a minute to figure out, Tyler Van Dyke doesn't know how to play against the zone. But I'm not going to – I said a lot of flattering things of Tyler Van Dyke entering seasons, and I'm not going to take that away. He looked the part. He had a big arm, but there were just certain aspects of the game he didn't get. This dude, Cam Ward, has the confidence, certainly has the arm talent to do it, brings a mobility to the position that we haven't seen since De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King probably would like a word in terms of like biggest talent, even though he was very, very small. Cam Ward can take a hit. Hopefully we don't see him take a hit. He's got a good body type. Cam Ward appreciates a challenge. To watch him at some of these practices, he's a really competitive dude. He's got enough talent on the outside. I think if you can have any question marks, even though they're bringing back practically 2,000-yard receivers and brought Sam Brown in, who's got NFL prospects, very exciting. And we'll see if Arroyo at tight end can actually give you something out of that position. I think the question marks that you have as you enter year 3 of Mario Cristobal is we got to get a little bit more on the outside. And I think that secondary is a real question mark, but the front 7 should alleviate a lot of those concerns. But O-line, D-line, running back room for certain, and quarterback, most talented team entering a season in quite some time. I'd say 2016 had a lot of sneaky NFL talent.
In your adult life.
2016, yeah. Well, in terms of D-line, best.
Right.
In my adult life. But in terms of NFL talent, 2016, the year before they were good, before 17, if you remember in 16, they lost a lot of one-score games. Same thing happened last year. Miami lost a lot of one-score games, and that's historically a pretty good indicator year over year, especially if you add talent the way that Miami has. Year over year, if a team lost a lot of one-score heartbreakers, you can count on the math working out the following year, and that's what I hope happens with Miami.
The answer might be different for everyone, but when does adult life start? Huh?
About 18, I think.
18? Some people say 21. Some people say after your bar mitzvah. Some people say after the first time you had sex.
When I saw the movie Showgirls.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. When does adult life begin? 21, 18, your bar mitzvah, or after the movie Showgirls?
Or the first time you have sex.
A person on Twitter has whispered to us, what does OLI stand for? Whispered. It's a whisper. He's ashamed to ask. It's outside looking in. We're inclusive here, Tony. Don't make that person feel bad.
I was going to say you need to whisper back.
Outside looking in. Thank you, Tony. Also,
I can still do it.
On ESPN, barely. Your voice is shut.
Looking in.
You've never totally been able to whisper.
Dan, listen up. OLI.
You would have a hard time doing 90 seconds in that voice.
We'll see.
We're going to bring in Ian O'Connor in a second. Not surprisingly, if you're tuned into ESPN this morning, Kendrick Perkins says that LeBron has now passed MJ because of that shot, and Mike Greenberg is saying Steph Curry's shot is the greatest in the history of basketball. So we've got to. This is how we celebrate excellence.
It's not even the greatest Steph Curry shot.
If we can't criticize you, we have to go the other way, and this is why it's so hard for entities to just celebrate greatness.
Also, in the previous segment, I think you had Mina and Dominique and Pablo leaving us. And I don't think that's exactly how that one went.
Thank you for the correction. I could be prideful of it nonetheless. It's my pride list.
You were thinking that too, huh?
It is what I'm proud of. I snuck Whittingham in there to make it more.
I was like, Pablo's with us.
I think you heard what you were saying, and then you're like, oh, Witty. No, that one actually works.
Ian, thank you for joining us. I was telling the folks that Ian O'Connor and Stugotz was telling the folks that it's good to see that there's still a journalist out there wandering the earth in interest of finding the truth, of getting to the bottom of the truth.
A fact-finding mission.
That's right.
Yes.
So I've known this person for a very long time. He's a 4-time New York Times best-selling author. His books are exhaustively reported. He's an exceptional writer as well. His latest book is out on Tuesday the 20th, and it's called Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers. It's 250 interviews, including Rodgers himself. It's already making headlines. It's going to make more headlines. And I'm genuinely puzzled, Ian, and I'm happy to talk to you because I don't know what happened to Aaron Rodgers. So can you tell me what happened to Aaron Rodgers?
What happened was COVID. I think that those 4 words, I've been immunized in August of 21, changed his entire life. Because before that, he was actually considered one of the good guys and one of the more socially aware athletes in the NFL and beyond. And obviously, after misleading the public, effectively lying about his status, and we saw in November he test positive for COVID as an unvaccinated player, he's never recovered from that in a public image context. And so he became a villain that day, and that's what happened to him. Because before that point, he supported Colin Kaepernick's stance. He supported the athletes who were kneeling during the anthem. He was involved in charitable causes for victims of the war in the Congo. What else did he do? He had a thoughtful response to Drew Brees' stance on the anthem. He was considered one of the good guys in the NFL and in American sports, and that all changed with those 4 words, I've been immunized.
Is Aaron aware of that he's turned into a villain?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's aware of it. He's spoken in the past about that day, really in August of 21, and there's a story now up on ESPN.com out of my book where he now says that if he had to do that all over again, he would not have said that. He would have told his truth. And his truth was that he was allergic to an ingredient in Moderna and Pfizer, those vaccines. He was concerned about possible side effects with Johnson & Johnson. And that the reason he didn't tell the truth that day is because he was concerned it was going to impact his appeal with the league. And in retrospect, he should have just said, I'm concerned about these vaccines. I'm not getting vaxxed, and told the truth. And I told him, and sitting in his backyard in Malibu, basically that if I were a columnist in Green Bay or Milwaukee, and I can't guarantee this because I wasn't sitting in the room, and you told the truth, and I was vaccinated at the time, I would have found that to be a somewhat reasonable position. I don't think I would have ripped you in a column that day, and I think you would have gotten a fraction of the criticism you ultimately got in November when the truth came out.
Again, the name of the book is Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers, and he's talked to 250 people. I read something that was aggregated the other day. I don't know if it's from your book or not, about the breaking up of his family over the fact that he was having premarital sex with Olivia Munn on game day. Is that from your book, or is that from elsewhere? What are the interesting things around his family stuff that you discovered?
Well, it was part of it was obviously his family was devoutly religious, and he was raised in that environment. And I think he ultimately rebelled against that, and that rebellion planted a seed for other rebellions. And certainly that wasn't the factor or the primary factor in his estrangement. But the fact of the matter is that his mother, particularly very devoutly religious, and she was morally opposed to premarital sex, and that applied to him in her mind, even when after he had won the Super Bowl, and he was asked by her, when you travel with your girlfriend, are you staying in separate rooms? And so, listen, my mother taught me premarital sex was a bad thing too. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that's an example of something that did bother him. But this estrangement, everybody's looking for one singular reason why, and it's gone on for nearly 10 years. It's death by 1,000 cuts. There's not one reason why. And certainly he could not illustrate that to me. And his parents still say they don't know why he doesn't talk to them anymore and hasn't for nearly 10 years. So it's a lot of he said, she said. I think religion was a bigger part of it early, now not so much a big part of it. His best friend, Jordan Russell, I think has a key quote in the book where he says that when Aaron believes that a family member or a friend is laying claim to something based on his accomplishments and success, he will go out of his way to make sure that person earns his or her own way. And I actually think that's a big part of it now, is that he feels like the family unit revolved too much around his success, and it was something that he rebelled against.
Is his brain internet fried?
I think that's part of it too. Yeah. I think he is on the internet all the time. I don't think he would admit that for public consumption, but I think he's a very, very well-read guy. I think he actually reads too much of the wrong material out there on the web and in other forums. But I think that's a fair way of putting it.
What do you think was interesting when you report these things? For people who don't understand the amount of time, effort, and work that it goes into crafting something the way Ian O'Connor would insist on it being crafted if it has his name on it. When you're reporting this, what are the items that jumped out to you again and again as like, whoa, that's surprising. Didn't know that.
I think the way he's covered in the media, I think most fans would believe that his teammates don't like him. And the opposite is true. I mean, he's universally loved and admired around the NFL by the players. And I think that has to count for something. He's spending the most amount of time with them. And outside of a couple of guys who've ripped him at times over the years, Greg Jennings and Jermichael Finley, man, it's pretty impressive. I talked to one prominent NFL figure who knows hundreds upon hundreds of NFL players. And this figure told me he hated Aaron Rodgers, basically. He couldn't stand him in anything that he stood for. But he said, I have to admit, I've never met an NFL player who doesn't like him. And so that was surprising. And I think that would be surprising to a lot of fans who, reading the way he's covered, and we all know a lot of his wounds are self-inflicted, but I think fans would be almost shocked by that his teammates see him as a great teammate and leader. And just being around the Jets the last year and a half, it's amazing to a man that they really have a tremendous amount of admiration for Aaron Rodgers.
Just pre-ordered the book on Audible. It drops next week. Got to read the shit out of this with my ears.
Nice.
Well, I'm telling the audience. I'm telling the audience here that this is this person, Ian O'Connor. When he tackles something, it's not just 250 interviews. This has been an obsession for you for how many years now? How long have you been working on this? How many months have you been working on this straight?
This one was shorter than my average book in terms of time. I left my job and a fair amount of money to do this. I had never written a book or reported and researched a book without a full-time job on the side, so to speak. I left my columnist job at the New York Post to focus on this because I felt it needed to come out while he was still active and still playing. And actually, Dan, I was going to do a book on your guy, LeBron. I was under contract to do that biography. But what happened was Jeff Benedict came out with a book I didn't realize was in the works, and I thought there might be a little LeBron fatigue. And then Aaron Rodgers gets traded into my backyard in New York, and figured he's probably the most prominent American male athlete who hasn't had a defining book written about him. So I made the trade, LeBron for Aaron Rodgers, and hopefully it was a good one.
LeBron, another one of those who came through here and then went on to better things. I'm very proud of him.
Your guy.
He left us. He did.
Very proud of him as well.
But Ian, after your exhaustive research and you quit your job and you spoke to all these people.
Why are you saying it that way?
I'm asking them a question.
No, but there's some tone in your voice.
Well, I'm just wondering, did you get the sense after all of that research that Aaron is going to play 17 games this season?
That's all he cares about.
Stugotz, and listen, I want the Jets in the Super Bowl because I was 4 years old the last time they were in the Super Bowl. I'm about to turn 60 in 2 weeks, so I really want to see it. I want it to happen. I know you do as well. I think that the Jets are going to go 11-6 this year. I see them in the playoffs as a factor. I see them unfortunately losing the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, but one of these years the Jets are going to win it. It's just like in 2004, I was there when the Red Sox won it, okay? Their fan base assumed something was going to go wrong, and it went wrong for everybody else that year, particularly the New York Yankees. And the Cubs, same thing with their fan base, even going back to the New York Rangers in 1994. Those fatalistic fan bases were ultimately rewarded, and I do believe that will happen to the Jets. I think it's possible that will happen this year, but that's asking for a lot. I think Aaron Rodgers, I would sign up now, Stugotz, for 14 starts because I think Tyrod Taylor can win 2 out of 3.
Right.
Just as long as the injury is in the middle of the year. I just want him to be healthy for the playoffs.
Right.
I just didn't know Tyrod Taylor was there.
T-Mobile.
Ian, so can you tell me in when you write a book like this, how does this come together? How did he agree to it? Were you already down the path of writing it and then you got him to agree?
Oh, I always want to make sure the subject hears it from me first. I don't want the subject to ever hear I'm doing an unauthorized biography from somebody else. So when he was traded, first press conference at the Jets in Florham Park, New Jersey, I had obviously alerted their PR chief, Eric Gelfand, that I was about to start this project, and he arranged for me to talk to Aaron for a few minutes after the press conference. And I explained to him my process, and I said, do you have any questions about that process? And he said, yeah, I have a question. Do you plan on interviewing me for this book? And I said, well, of course, I'd love to, but that's up to you. And we went months and months, and I was making requests. I contacted him directly, his agent. Obviously, I was going through the Jets a lot. And I handed in the manuscript in January without him. And I assumed he was not going to cooperate. And then I got a message in February from the Jets that Aaron's now willing to talk to you, to see you. So I flew out to Malibu. Obviously, we had to reopen the book. I had a bomb scare on my plane, by the way. I got diverted to Chicago for 7 or 8 tense hours, so that wasn't fun. But got to Malibu. His backyard is the Pacific Ocean. We sat on a bluff overlooking the ocean and talked. And so that interview helped the book, definitely. And I appreciate it. Listen, I could have used 15 hours with him, but he wasn't there to tell me his life story. He agreed to, at the end of my process, to basically let me check facts against his memory, his beliefs, and that's what we did for 2 hours.
And where did he most object to something you were presenting as a fact?
I would say the family estrangement, and I thought that as much as I interviewed his parents, and they had never really spoken about it to any length or any degree. His brothers didn't talk to me, but I talked to some of his relatives, his grandmother, his aunts, and others. And for instance, he didn't go to a wedding of his college roommate and teammate and good friend. He was in the wedding party, and at the last second, although he refutes this, he contacted his name is Francis Blade Mieza, and told him, I'm not going to be at the wedding. I'm not going to be in your wedding party because you invited my family and I asked you not to. And I said, Aaron, how do you do that to the guy? It's his wedding. He gets to decide who's invited and who isn't. I'm sure he could seat you at a different table, but I'm going to criticize you in the book for making that decision because that day was about him. That was not about you. And you got to rise above whatever issues you have with your family. I'm going to criticize your brothers for other things they did, and perhaps your parents as well. But I just want you to know up front, if you want to counter that, and he did, he said, listen, I understand your opinion, but it's wrong, and you're uneducated on the complexity of the situation. And so it got tense a couple of times, but frankly, I've always found him to be, and I didn't know him, but just being in his presence at some big games that he played, I think he's the best interview in the NFL. He's thoughtful, even if you don't agree with a lot of what he's saying. He is a reporter's dream to cover, at least in season. He's available, he's thoughtful, he's engaging. And so, yeah, I would say that the family estrangement issues were where it got a little tense. Outside of that, the COVID admission really that he made a mistake by saying I've been immunized, I found that to be pretty revealing. And but it was an interesting and fascinating couple hours, and really all my months in researching his life were really among the more challenging of any book that I've done, including Belichick. I actually found this project to be more of a challenge than Belichick.
Because?
Belichick, even though he's a mysterious figure, there was a sameness about him as a character throughout his coaching career. And I thought Aaron was more of a moving target. And he was one of the good guys. And then he became the ultimate villain in the NFL. And I handed him the book without him. And then suddenly he wants to talk to me. I reopened the book. And then he went on after I talked to him and didn't have access to him anymore on some podcasts talking about more conspiracy theories. And I had to keep reopening the book and adding that. You had the RFK Jr. story. You had the CNN Sandy Hook story. And it was just a lot of moving parts with him. And I found him to be a little more elusive than Belichick.
Take me through those controversies you just mentioned. How does he really feel about 9/11, Sandy Hook, all of those things?
Well, obviously he said what he said about Sandy Hook and that he didn't have that belief. And that's the one conspiracy theory that if he had, that is unforgivable. You don't have to be a parent to understand. That one's different. And his friends that I talked to said they had never heard him share that conspiracy theory. And listen, that was odd. I think, Dan, we go back as old newspaper guys. I can't remember an outlet ever holding a story for 11 years and then running it. And I'm a fan of Jake Tapper's, but I don't know how CNN has that story with a public figure in 2013 and publishes in 2024. I just don't understand that. But yeah, that one would be unforgivable. And I think that with conspiracy theories, and it started with him in high school when he was a sophomore and he did a project on the assassination of JFK, and he got fascinated with conspiracies back then, and he read up on this vile project called Operation Northwoods, which really was hatched by the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the 1960s, and it was a plan for the American military to attack American military and civilian targets, blame it on Castro as justification to start a war with Cuba. Thankfully, President Kennedy nixed it. So what the hell is this? We're not doing this. But I think Aaron, reading up on that and other things, he sort of came to believe that with every government crisis, there's an Operation Northwoods behind it, which obviously isn't true. I will say that if he embraces 7 conspiracy theories now, it's probable that 1 or 2 of those will be proven true. Some conspiracy theories are true. It's just that a number of his definitely are not.
You mentioned a couple of the places where you're going to be critical, that wedding story, COVID. Where else are you most critical in the book?
Well, listen, as a football player, you look at his postseason record, he's 11-10. And I think that in going back and watching so much video of his highlights and his big games and his prime, it's just hard to believe that the Packers only won 1 Super Bowl with him. And his teammates all thought he was much better than Tom Brady, and physically he was. I think Mahomes and Rodgers are separated from everyone else in history by their talent. So I think there were some moments where he did not come through, particularly the NFC Championship game against Brady and the Buccaneers, where he had an opportunity to get that game into overtime and couldn't even gain a yard on 1st and goal. And you figure Brady played terribly in that game, but he would have found a way to get that ball in the end zone and get the 2-point conversion. So I do think there was an intangible maybe lacking with Rodgers that Brady had. So it's stunning, really, that the Packers could not find a way to win multiple rings with him. And though I do believe most of the blame goes with the fact that he had Mike McCarthy and not Bill Belichick. He didn't have the greatest offensive coordinator of his generation like Brady did. And his special teams units let him down. Defenses let him down. If they recover an onside kick in 2014, he gets to the second Super Bowl in a year where he beat Brady and Belichick in the regular season. So there are obviously mitigating factors here, but there were times when he could have made big plays in the postseason and he did not. And so that's an area where I am critical of him as well.
His name is Ian O'Connor. He's a 4-time New York Times bestselling author. The name of the book is Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers. We all had the same reaction about a minute into that answer, which is we heard a fart that can also be described as out of the darkness. And we think it's your chair. We don't think it was actually you. But since you're not afraid of asking.
Coward.
I assure you that it wasn't me.
If since you are someone, what do you mean coward?
I mean, just ask him if he farted.
All right.
From one journalist to another.
I was going to set it up with hard-hitting questions.
I do have a squeaky chair here, but I can assure you that did not happen.
Okay, that's fine. The denial is unconvincing.
Supplied it.
We will conduct our own investigation shortly to play the sound for the audience and let them decide. I'm promising the audience, though, that if this man is writing the book is good, it is thorough, it is exhaustive, and it is worth your time. This is not something that is just being, forgive the phrase, farted out. Like, he's working hard on making sure that this is properly vetted and reported.
That's my book.
That is correct. Yeah. Can you tell me who was the most interesting person you talked to, Ian? Who did you find most interesting or revelatory?
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
He was a good answer. That's a great answer. Perfect.
Like I said,
I'm buying 2 copies. How about that? I mean,
he's the best interview in the league, and I found that to be the case. It was a very intriguing 2 hours that I spent with him. Again, I wish it were 5 hours, but no, I've always thought and found him to be, from a distance, the most fascinating figure in the league. A lot of people hate him, but there are a lot of people who love him too. And so, yeah, talking to him about a very sensitive issue. Listen, I come from a big Irish Catholic family, so I'm a veteran of family strife to some degree, not to his degree, but his willingness to address some very sensitive topics, I appreciate. I appreciated the fact he didn't owe me anything, and he sat down with me for those 2 hours. It's an unauthorized biography. He had no control over content or anything else. And so not owing me anything, but granting me at that time was very much appreciated. It did make it a better book. And one thing too, is he understood that I had to write about his family issues. And I know that's something that not a lot of athletes would have accepted. I said, I just can't do the story of your life and leave this out. Do you understand that? Do you want to debate that? Do you want me to explain it to you why that's the case? He said, no. He goes, I understand that you have really no choice but to do this. He wasn't happy about it. He wished that I wouldn't write about it, but I did appreciate the fact that he understood it, because I know athletes who would not have understood that point.
Who finished second then to Aaron Rodgers in most interesting person you talked to?
Greg Rigsby, his junior college coach at Butte College. He's like a Charles Barkley figure. He's not afraid to. There are a lot of people out there afraid to talk about Aaron Rodgers. That also made this a difficult project, and maybe more difficult than my Belichick book. But he wasn't. He'll tell stories on Aaron all day and not back away from it. And he saved his career, really, because, as you probably know, he didn't have a single Division I scholarship out of high school. And as the local JUCO coach, he was living a few houses away from Rodgers, walked over to his house. That was his recruiting visit, and basically sold Rodgers on a vision of, I can give you the platform to get you to a Division I school. Believe in me. And he did. So Craig Rigsby is a guy that, if you ever had him on the air, he would light it up for you. He's just, again, he's like a Charles Barkley figure, and Aaron can't control him. So I actually, when I had that conversation with Rodgers at his Jets press conference, he actually brought Rigsby up and he said, listen, this guy never lets the facts get in the way of a good story. So when you talk to him, you might want to keep that in mind. So, of course, immediately I said, I got to talk to this guy. And he was a hoot. He really was.
Ian, through the process of doing this book, did you get any sort of sense of what Aaron's relationship with Brett Favre is like?
It's gotten better, Stugotz, over the years. And listen, Favre treated him in a way early on, even his parents told me, and others close to Aaron. It really affected Aaron. And so Rodgers learned from that, and he treated Jordan Love in a way that he was not treated by Brett Favre. And I don't know if Aaron's gotten enough credit for that. And so I think that right now, Favre and Rodgers are in a much better place, certainly than they were in 2005 and 2006. And I think Favre saw what happened to Rodgers, and Rodgers got a better appreciation of what happened to Favre when he was a young player, that they came together on that front as well.
Ian, good seeing you again, and I will tell the audience he has my heartiest endorsement because he tackles the good stuff and he does it in a way that's old-fashioned and thorough. Good seeing you, Ian. Thank you for being on with us.
Hey, my pleasure as always, Dan. Thanks, guys.
Chris Cody, has the video team concluded its thorough library investigation that would allow us to discern whether or not award-winning New York Times best-selling author Ian O'Connor indeed farted during the Aaron Rodgers interview?
We have the sound. Are you ready for it?
The sound. Which way are you leaning? Do you not want to contaminate the jury pool? You don't want to.
I want to let the people decide.
All right, let's see.
Physically, he was. I think.
I mean, well, come on. What are we doing there?
Physically, he was. I think.
Man.
I mean, that's
a fart.
Ian O'Connor, salute to you, brother. You are my good brother and personal friend. But you, sir, are a farter.
Physically, he was. I think.
Blamed it on the chair.
I blamed it on the chair. I gave him the out because he denied it pretty vigorously. Let's hear it again because I saw Tony was the only one that reacted to it. I saw both Tony's eyebrows go up.
Physically, he was. I think.
Classic.
I heard it. I was just I was trying to rise above, but you did have to acknowledge it.
But his eyebrows went up, Tony.
I mean, our audience wouldn't have let us get away with not acknowledging that appeared in the middle of the interview.
We should get him back and play it for him. I mean, seriously, he can't deny it.
All right, let's get him back on and just play it for him and just help him understand that if he is buried in circumstantial evidence, there's no one who's going to hear that and say it's not a fart. That is not a chair. It might be somebody came in and was playing the trombone in the back of the room.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a wind instrument.
It is a wind instrument.
Physically, he was. I think.
Out of the Darkness is the name of the book. Out of the Darkness is where that sound came from.
I think.
Get him back on. I want to accuse the investigative journalist. I want to conduct our own investigation.
It was a very smooth release, though. Like, he's talking, and then it comes out, and he's just on to the next word. Like, there's no hiccup.
Well, it's because he didn't actually fart. There's some other explanation, but we are now accusing him as a show of farting. I mean,
because it's a fart. I mean,
speaking of farting, I have to pay homage to the most brilliant Olympic athlete I have ever seen in my entire life. My sister Ray Gunn from Australia.
Thank you.
The breakdancing machine. Yes. Oh my God, you ma'am get the salute of the day.
Yes, she lost 54-0. She
Wait, what?
Yeah, she lost all 3 of her matches.
Wait, that lady didn't win? The internet fooled me.
No, she was terrible. I saw the best tweet I saw on the subject is she just did a breaking routine that is what my 5-year-old does when she says, "Watch this," and then does it on the couch.
Like my capoeira routine.
I gotta tell you, I just flatly got it wrong when it came to breaking. Everyone was excited that breaking was in the Olympics, and I thought it was going to be awesome. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. Now, unfortunately for her, she's the face of it, and it seems like she's being a pretty good sport about it. But no, it was pretty whack. I didn't like it at all. It was bad.
I mean, at some point, she just did what was called the T-Rex because it's not breaking. It's just, it wasn't breaking.
She hit the kangaroo on him.
How did we get from a fart to breakdancing? I mean, that was an amazing transition. Oh, breaking wind.
Yes,
I like that. Need to say that, though.
How that works. Thank you, Chris Cody. You have found your executive producer wheelhouse. This is exactly how it is that you're supposed to be using sound around here. I don't know if all of you saw Deion's contentious, controversial press conference with the local media. Let's not get carried away there, Chris. I know you're going to enjoy that.
You just got the compliment. Take the compliment.
Yeah,
man.
just take the compliment.
Put it away for a minute.
Chris, see if you, and I understand what you descend from, okay? See if you can show restraint. I don't think you can. Yeah, I think you're going to fail at it. But see if, unlike your father, at some point you can just show a modicum of restraint. I wanted you to hit it again there.
I mean, that was the setup, dude.
You threw him off.
You were supposed
to. I did it in the middle of the setup.
Yeah, but I didn't want it in the middle of the setup. I wanted you to work with me, not against me. I wanted to play music with you, where you're the trombone player. Every time I pause, you make the sound. We make music together. It's in order. It's in sync. That's the way you do it. That's not the way you do it. Deion Sanders is boycotting local media, Stugotz, or at least
CBS.
Yeah, but but not just CBS. He was contentious with a few different people. The season hasn't started, obviously. When you raise the bonfire to this kind of burn, there are a lot of things that can get swallowed in it. And I'm not even putting this on Deion. I'm saying everything Deion has represented for 30 years invites this, and everything Deion has represented for 30 years fights this way against it. He does not care that he is going to have to go face first into the buzzsaw. He's been doing that for 30 years in America. So he does not. I will... Having watched the entirety of his career, I do worry about his stamina for this, because the America he's been fighting for 30 years hasn't been allowed to be as brazenly racist as the America we are presently in. I think the next Republican candidate should run on a platform of make racism subtle again, because Deion is certainly used to this, and he welcomes these fights, and he does well in these fights. But he does well in these fights when he is singularly banking on his confidence in his skill, which is otherworldly at playing. I don't know if it's that at coaching.
He thinks it is, though. He thinks, given the time, that he will be a great coach.
What I have
and
found,
why would you expect him to think any differently?
It's not that I expect him to think any differently. Is that I know where his confidence came from, stacking successes on top of each other as a skilled athlete who is better than everybody. He is now not in a world where, however good he is at coaching, he's going to be better than everybody, the way he was as a Hall of Fame football player, where no one could do anything against him. He was the best cornerback. Close the position. You may argue for Darrell Green or someone else. My answer is there. Deion Sanders. Most electric player in the game, Deion Sanders. Special teams, Deion Sanders. The skill level rewarded the arrogance. The arrogance was born because of the skill level. He takes that into coaching. That skill level against the people that he's coaching against, there's not that big a gap, whatever it is that you make of his coaching. And so it's harder to cash the checks. And he's older. He's had, his feet have been amputated, correct? That's why he
part of it.
Toes. Yes, that's why he walks the way he does. I hope he has the stamina for the fight, the way that it will reveal itself now. But here is some of the contentious back and forth that he is having before the games have started, before the winning started, and before the losing has started.
That's the end of that question, I guess. Next guy.
Eric Christensen with CBS Sports Colorado.
CBS,
Tyler,
I'm not doing nothing with CBS. Next question.
Joe Rigo, Mile High
Ain't got
Sports
nothing to do
Vegas.
with you. It's above that. Ain't got nothing to do with you. I got love for you. I appreciate you, respect you. Ain't got nothing to do with you. They know what they did.
I'm here in Denver, not national.
You are who you are. CBS is CBS.
All right.
Joe Rigo, Mile High Sports. I respect you. That's why I told you that. I'm looking you in the eye as a man. I respect you. I got love for you. But what they did was foul.
I'm not sure what they did. I've read some about it being about where he was ranked, but I'd like where he was ranked by CBS in some rankings on second worst coach in the conference. That's a $5 fine for you, Stugotz.
What did I do?
That's your computer.
It's not.
That was not Stugotz's.
Dude, don't do that.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
a Windows sound.
Thank you.
Whose sound was that?
Stugotz's.
No.
Was that you, Chris Cody? Was that
I don't know what
executive
you're talking
producer
about.
Chris Cody?
Sounds like it's $10
I think
for
it was
you.
Lewis,
I mean,
actually.
Yeah. Huh. Who was it?
What got Deion upset? Do we know the facts of this as opposed to me speculating on partially read information?
No one really knows. He says they know what they did, and that would be news to everybody else. I think Awful Announcing tried to piece together some theories. What could it be? Could it be the ranking? Could it be a story that they ran on one of his sons? It was pointed out that a local affiliate has a Deion Sanders show, so no one really knows what this problem is. It would have helped contextually for that other than just be a bad look.
Yeah, I don't think, though, Stugotz, that Deion Sanders minds. I think he's got a higher pain threshold than most for, there's going to be bumpy headlines. I've been dealing with it for 30 years.
Right.
I don't care. I'm going to set all my own boundaries, and I do not care how it is that you react to me setting all my own boundaries.
You mentioned that he doesn't mind putting his face in the buzzsaw. Who put this buzzsaw here? He did. This is just a normal. He was asked a question about Affleck earlier on. It's a normal light press conference, and it was made awkward by Deion himself. Like, no one saw this coming. No one even understands where the beef came from.
But Deion's going to do it his way, though, right? Like,
he's a gag. If the man don't want to answer the question, he ain't going to answer the damn question. If they don't offend him in a certain way.
Well, there wasn't a question, though.
I'm saying, but whatever it was with CBS, he has it still in his mind. So whatever it is, we don't know. So he's sticking to his guns.
The only thing I would say is that's a national story. Don't let it trickle down to the local beat writer that you like, that you're sitting here acknowledging, hey, I like you, but you're with CBS. You are what you are.
But Stugotz, you can make whatever your rules are for this. I will simply tell you that Deion Sanders has earned in his mind, which is the one that's controlling his behavior, the right to behave how he behaves authentically at all times.
Sure.
Without caring what the optics of it
I
are,
know.
without caring how uncomfortable it makes anybody, and without caring where it is that it tramples journalists whose feelings might get hurt because they behave or think of how things are presented differently than he does.
Of course he has that right, but we have the right to respond, to react to what it is we see.
That hasn't been bad for Deion's business, though, at any point in his career.
No.
And it's not going. My point is he's going to continue to invite whatever it is that is, because he doesn't care how high the bonfire flies, because he's always ended up winning at the end of whatever it is that all the burning of that is.
Well, I was going to say he has to win, right? You need to start winning. When he coached at Jackson State, first season was okay. Second 2 seasons, I think he was like 24-3. Right? Like, he was really good. That team was really good. It's going to wear thin at Colorado, Dan, unless he starts winning.
Stugotz, losing.
Unless Colorado only cares about having Deion as their coach.
Stugotz, losing wears thin everywhere. He's got 3 years either way. He's going to do it his.